Welcome back to another episode of Decoded, a Lost Codex podcast. I'm your host, Jesse, the writer, director, and narrator for the Lost Codex episodes. And today, I am joined, for the first time on camera, welcome back, Shanyn. Shanyn is back. How long's it been, Shanyn?
A few months, probably.
I want to say last time you were on was episode 4? Episode 3?
Yeah, it's when we gushed about BlizzCon, I think.
Yes, that actually was the last one, because we did the Maggar and Dark Irons, and then we did BlizzCon. Yep. And then you never came back ever, because you didn't like the first experience, clearly. We talked about you last week, in last week's podcast, because Jack's a little bit offended. He wanted to meet you the last 4 weeks, and you couldn't make it. And now you're back, and where's he tonight?
And where's he?
What a jerk.
Or are we supposed to be friends?
But Jack actually leveled Alliance side, so he wasn't able to join us tonight. So I didn't want to spoil it for him, and we'll have Jack on next week to talk about the Zandalari. Actually, Jack was going off on this topic about how nice you are in Discord and everything, and then at the end of the rant, I kind of jumped in and I'm like, Jack, that's not Shanyn. That's the wrong person you're thinking of. So he bolstered you up for 3 minutes before I totally destroyed.
And then you're like, that's not even her.
I'm like, no.
Don't worry about it.
No, ignore everything you just heard about Shanyn. Before we dive into Zandalar, I'm just gonna quickly we just mentioned BlizzCon, and there was actually today is August 18th. It was the final sale for the BlizzCon ticket sales, and I actually had a couple people reiterate some of the facts that you and I talked about, Shanyn, from our first podcast. Oh, well, Shanyn said this in the podcast, and I remember when Shanyn said this, and I was like, damn, you remember that? That was 4 months ago. Holy shit. So a couple people in the Discord were talking about some of the suggestions that you and I spat out, and successfully, those people got tickets today.
Ooh, I love to hear that. Yeah, because it's always a gamble getting tickets, but there are definitely things you can do to increase your chances for sure. So that makes me happy. Good. I'm glad at least some of the advice was able to get more people tickets. I saw a lot more people that they got tickets today and that they didn't get, So
screwed by
we were able to get
the process.
A lot more people tickets as well. Yeah, I don't know if I just wonder how many this batch was.
Same, because this was the second year in a row that they did a third ticket sale.
Well, and then last year, the only reason they did it is because they finished the construction on the other end of the convention center, and they said they released 5,000 more tickets. So I'm wondering if they divvied it up between the 3 batches for the 30,000, so they sold 10,000 in each wave. But
maybe they didn't announce it ahead of time, so I'm wondering if they wanted to kind of, maybe there was some more. Just more process planning and stuff, and then realize, we're under capacity, and let's open it up again.
Because it was a late announcement too, because when the third batch went on sale last year, it was actually before the original name change deadline. So who knows? But people got their tickets, and if you somehow did not get tickets, and because you weren't able to get on today, or connection sucked, or you just had bad luck, I'll repeat what Shanyn and I said months ago in our first podcast. Still don't give up. There are going to be people selling tickets. I know a couple people selling tickets at this moment. So if you really want to go to BlizzCon and you don't have a ticket yet, you can make it happen. Go check out our podcast when we talk about different websites and LF BlizzCon, Twitter, Reddit, and never pay more than the face value of that ticket. Do not buy scalped tickets. All right, we're gonna jump right into the podcast. Jack looks a little bit different today. Yes, Jack, your makeup is way different. Your hair's different. Completely changed.
You changed your room. Electric Boogaloo likes the new Jack. You don't like the old Jack, Electric, but Boogaloo. Actually, Shanyn, Boogaloo is coming to BlizzCon all the way from New Zealand.
I think, yeah. No, I was in Discord the other night with her, and yeah.
With Anthony.
That had to be her.
That was.
Yeah.
So.
I just heard New Zealand, and I was like, I heard that accent, and yes.
Oh, Stannis is Stannis is Australian, so there's probably some rivalry there. All right, we're gonna dive right into the podcast here.
Cool.
as I said in the pre-show, guys, we are talking about Zandalar today and the leveling experience with everything that just came out. Vol'dun, Nazmir, and Zuldazar. And before we kind of do a little quick summary on who the Zandalari are, I just want to say that we're only going to be talking about the leveling experience and the very end cinematic that happens. We're not going to be talking about anything specifically that happened today with the honor-bound reputation. We're not talking about anything max level, just the leveling experience, to really focus it, because there's so much story that's coming out, and not necessarily everyone has seen all the new story that's coming out at max level that's rep gated. So we're just going to be talking about the end game stuff. Now, before we do, the Zandalari, are one of the longest known factions in the game since the launch of World of Warcraft. And, every time there's a new expansion, there's always like a new faction or new races that get introduced, with the Broken Isle, the High Mountain Tauren have always been there, but they just got added in Legion. And the Nightborn. The Nightborn have always been there, but they just got added with Legion. The Zandalari have always been there, and they've actually always been in World of Warcraft. You guys might remember in early vanilla, what was the reputation called? Do you remember, Shannon? Zandalari
No.
Ooh, it was a Zul'Gurub emissary. I can't remember right now. Someone's going to say it in the comments. But it was essentially a reputation for Zul'Gurub, and the Zandalari were sent to infiltrate and stop the cultists
Zandalar
of
tribe.
the Zandalar tribe. Well, there we go.
Tribe.
That's way more underwhelming than I imagined.
Way easier than I thought.
Way easier. And essentially, the Zandalari recruited the Alliance and the Horde to go in and stop the cultists of Hakar. They're the ones who gave you your armor and your weapons back in the day in vanilla, but they just had regular troll models. We saw those same trolls up in Northrend. The Zandalar tribe is a scholar-based tribe. They're huge. It's this massive empire, but while they have a huge army and a huge navy and fleet and all that, they're all about lore and they're all about knowledge. And when the Drukhari Empire was crumbling at the hands of the Scourge and they were sacrificing their Loa, the Zandalar realized, we can't do anything to stop this, but we can at least record it so people know about it. So they sent historians to basically watch as the Zandalar Empire rolled around in its death throes kind of thing. And the Zandalari pop up again in Cataclysm during, I want to say it was 4.2, 4.3? Can't remember the exact patch, but there's that cinematic where Zul, it's actually a very outdated model of Zul, is talking to the Gurubashi and the Amani, and he wants to talk about rebuilding the Troll Empire, and then Vol'dun tells him to go stuff it, and that's where we do have the revamp for Zul'Gurub and Zul-Aman. And of course, the most recent Zandalari, aside from Battle for Azeroth, is the Mists of Pandaria Zandalari. And I don't know about you, but the Throne of Thunder patch in Mists was my favorite patch. I think that was my favorite patch in the entire expansion for Mists of Pandaria.
Yeah, absolutely. It was really well done. It's hard to bring races back into the game without seeming stale, but they did a fantastic job with it, just because we learned a lot more too. They put a lot into that patch that really kind of highlighted some points that people may not have realized had happened. But yeah, I loved the Thunder King stuff.
I was I'll admit, when I first saw the Zandalari on the northern shores of Pandaria, I was like, really? Do they have to? Again, it felt stale. I was like, come on, why are they putting them here? And then they really tied in the lore well, especially with Chronicle, when we find out. And for anyone who doesn't know, a very quick summary of the Zandalari. They're the first troll empire. They're the ones who climbed the sacred mountains of Zandalar and said, this is a cool place. We're going to build our home here. And anyone who doesn't build their home here isn't as cool as us. So the Zandalari built their tribe, built their temple cities, built their shrines to their Loa. Different tribes started popping up all around. And trolls, as trolls do, they fought, they killed each other, they hate each other. They eventually built the army of Zul, the empire of Zul, to combat the forces of the old gods. which was during the Troll and the Akir War, which involved a Cathrax general that I believe Blizzard wanted to bring him back in Battle for Azeroth, according to the files, but they ended up changing it to Mithrax. We'll talk about Mithrax later. Anyways, the Zandalari eventually befriend the Mogu, and they have like this really tight relationship with the Mogu, and specifically Lei Shen. The Zandalari actually teach Lei Shen how to be brought back from the dead, there's this sort of shared ritual that he entrusts only to them because he doesn't trust his generals, which is why the Zandalari were so important in Mists to bring Lei Shen back. I believe Lore Walker Cho's poem is by Zandalari hands he has been taken, by Zandalari voice he has awakened, or something like that. And what was that? That was a notification sound, and I'm not paying attention. Oh, it's gone. But hang on, I'm just gonna make sure
Someone's not following, but I couldn't see the name.
Same. Sorry about that, whoever that was. Alert box. I'm gonna shrink this down. Quick, everyone just subscribe all at once so we can just get another notification, please.
So we can get it all taken care of at once.
So we meet the Zandalari in Mists, and it was the opposite of stale. They gave the Zandalari this total just paint job. They gave them new models. They stood up straight. They were the pretty trolls, according to the Vol'dun book. They were the beautiful trolls. They had this, rather than tribal sort of witch doctor rundown village kind of theme, they had this Aztec theme, this sort of golden empire, and you really got to see that when you saw their fleets and you saw the boats. And Zul was mentioned all around the Throne of Thunder and Isle of Thunder, but he never actually popped up. He was smart. He stayed on the boat. He didn't actually get involved because we probably would have killed him back then. And I was so excited. The first LFR instance of Throne of Thunder is called The Last Stand of the Zandalari. And I remember people saying, well, the Zandalari are gone forever. And I was thinking, like, no, specifically in the books it says, Zul foresees the cataclysm. Rastakhan gives him the ships, and he only takes a small portion of the Zandalari with them. And I said, we're going to go back to Zandalar one day. We're going to see Zandalar. And people were like, no, they're gone. It's called The Last Stand. And I was thinking, like, no, man, we're going back. We're going back. And we're back. We are here. And I am so excited. Shannon, I think we talked about it pre-BlizzCon, and we were predicting what was coming. And I was like, it's Culture Ass, and it's Zandalar. The two places I've wanted to visit in World of Warcraft for... Ever? Yeah, that's a good number. I like that number. And Blizzard just blew it out of the water.
They did. Oh, God. Like, it still gives me chills when they announced... Like, seeing the trailer at BlizzCon, the one where Jaina's speaking at the beginning, and like, I still get chills thinking about it. It was such a great thing to see, because like, I love trolls. Like, I love everything about them. Like, I love doing all the old zones with like all the like shrines and pyramids and everything. I just like the culture of them, and to see them in like their full glory is just amazing. I love it.
When Jaina first is talking on screen and you see Kultiras and you hear the Terrassian music and you see the island and the canals and stuff, I was like, oh my god, we're going to Kultiras. I didn't even think about Zandalar. And then
you're like, but wait.
but then Jaina's like, but the fires of the Horde or something, and then the map zooms out and I was like, wait, we're going south. We're going to Zandalar, and it zooms in and I just saw the dinosaurs and I screamed. It was Jeff Goldblum. I was like, there it is, and that was the end of it. And I have theory crafted and headcanoned on Kultiras for years, but I could not play Zandalar first. I had to see Zandalar, and there's so much I want to talk about, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through like a basic rundown of the storyline and just kind of talk about little storylines here, side quests, main plot points, and Shannon and I's thoughts and as we go. And it starts off really weird. You and I were talking about this before, Shannon. Sylvanas wants the Horde to go rescue Princess Talanji and the Prophet Zul from Stormwind. And the question we didn't get answered was, why are they in Stormwind? Why are they in prison? And I'm trying to wrap my head around it.
There's literally like no follow up to it at all. I mean, none. We don't know how they got there. We don't know, like, we know why they came over, but we don't know why they got arrested. We don't know why they're in Stormwind. And all we know is that Sylvanas found out about it and wants them rescued.
And Talanji's ship is fully intact in the harbor. So like
in like the harbor. So it's not like they were taken by
force. They were boarded by the 7th Legion Marines, and like the ship was apprehended. Like
unless they set sail the wrong direction, and Stormwind was like the first place they came to, and then they didn't know it was Alliance controlled versus Horde. Like you would think they would have like knowledge of Kalimdor and sail the other direction, but why did they set sail towards Eastern Kingdoms? You know, because the Horde doesn't really have any outposts there, like strong, except for Undercity, which is now blown to bits, but like still,
especially like southern Eastern Kingdoms. Like why even go there? Unless the only thing that's close to Stormwind is Zul'Gurub. So unless because in the novellas they specifically talk about how the Alliance and Horde fleet is very small. The Legion destroyed their fleets. So I'm trying to imagine, did Talanji and Zul head towards Zul'Gurub? And some Snake Eye says in chat here, Zul probably led them there because he knew what would happen.
Completely plausible.
Completely plausible. But everything goes wrong for Zul once we arrive. So I'm wondering, that's kind of like the one problem lore-wise I have with all of this. Like why?
It just doesn't make any sense.
And actually, we talked about it in the podcast a couple weeks ago. Just little ideas, and actually, Latest, I believe, in our Discord said this idea. You know, before we knew it was Sylvanas. Like, what if it wasn't Sylvanas or Jaina that burned down Teldrassil? What if it was Zul, just the Zandalari for some reason, and that's why Talanji and Zul is arrested, and that's why Sylvanas reaches out and she decides to make use of this. And I thought, oh, that's a really cool way to, you know, King Anduin is on this war march against the Horde, but it doesn't seem him. It doesn't. You'd think, you know, he wouldn't take a royal prisoner, a royal princess prisoner, just so casually like that,
and even like without questions asked. You know what I mean? Because like we saw his thought process with Sarfang,
right?
Because he clearly had no intention of killing him or whatever. But what reason would he have? Because if the Zandalari are truly neutral, why would he feel the need to put them in jail?
Right.
So that's just the one thing I think that I really had an issue with.
And maybe it's going to be answered in the future, but or maybe there's a short story that we're missing. I was hoping maybe a comic, but moving on. We don't know why they're there, but Talanji saves the day as the Alliance fleet is chasing.
Can we just talk about how amazing she is?
How,
like, I am in love with her. Her character is so good. Like, so good. I'm so glad. Like, so with, like, the kind of downfall of Sylvanas and losing, like, because both sides have very strong female leadership at this point. You know, with the Alliance having Jaina, and Talanji is, like, just on point with everything. I just, like, that opening cinematic gave me chills. Absolutely.
I think it's kind of the reason why so many people fell in love with Yrel as well, in that we've never had a female troll ever in the spotlight. We never had a female Draenei before, so you're introduced to this female troll, this royal princess, and not only is she like, oh, you're unique, totally badass, summons Razan, Loa of Kings, decimates the fleet.
Iron Man's the Alliance fleet,
right?
Like it was
with
just
her
so
arms
good.
out. I'm so excited for the few, and we'll talk about this later, because there's cinematics that really imply a lot for Talanji's future. But the Alliance and Horde, we show up in the lower docks of Zuldazar, and right away we're brought to meet the Zanculi Council. And I'm as someone who's loved Zandalar lore from like the RPG and stuff, the word Zanculi Council has always been in the lore, literally for like 15 years. So I'm really glad that they focus, not only like introduced Zanculi Council, but made them an entire plot point in Zandalar, and how, the trolls here, they're not all just vicious and savage. There's a lot of political backstabbing going on. There is more political ire here than there is in Stormwind. And, the Zanculi Council, they're all dicks.
They're horrible.
That's not true. Most of them, the first, 4 you meet are bad.
Yeah.
One of them's blatantly a reference to the villain of Emperor's New Groove. One of them's just a jackass. He's got a sand troll model. He's just a jackass right off the bat. And
I feel like sand trolls are just always dicks. Like, everyone you've ever come into contact with, they're just the worst. They just have a negative.
When you have sand shoved up your ass, I suppose you'd be kind of.
I'd be ornery too.
Yeah, you know what? I don't blame him. General Jacrezet actually says that his people were decimated by the Horde. Doesn't say where, but it's interesting when I was reading his Wowpedia file here. Of course, I closed the page. He's a decorated Sand Fury soldier, and he joined the coalition of forces under the banner of Prophet Zul during the Pandaria campaign. Despite the outcome of the campaign, and his skill in strategy and tactics could not be denied, eventually the Prophet Zul petitioned to promote him to the role of general. So I was kind of wondering, why is a sand troll so high up in Zandalari culture?
It's probably because Zul sees him as malleable, and he can kind of force him to do what he did, because I feel like Sand Fury are super angry at everything,
everyone,
and so it's very easy to get them to just push him over the edge and be like, this is what we're gonna do. And obviously it worked, but yeah, he just from the moment you get there, he's I'll enjoy watching Rastakhan punt you off the top of the pyramid. He just has nothing, no good things to say, anything. And so that was a first giveaway of
he's addicted to Talanji right off the bat too. You're not my queen yet, and you're whoa, we just got here. Can you give me a tour before you throw me off the pyramid? And I thought it was kind of cool that they use an outside troll for this to kind of give a different perspective. And it's a shame we don't really see him at all in Zuldazar. He's just kind of hi, I'm a dick, and then he goes off to Vol'dun. He's I'm going to go to the desert because I hate desert, so I'm going to go there. And then we don't see him until later, and we'll talk about him later. But which zone did you start with when you picked your first zone? What was your first zone?
Zuldazar.
Same. I thought, you know what? Yeah. I'm here. I might as well save the day here. Why am I going to leave and come back? What would you say your favorite zone out of the 3 are, Shanyn?
They're all so good.
Right?
Story-wise, I really enjoyed Nazmir. It was just, it felt a lot longer than the other zones, but there was just so much going on that I was just so enthralled with. I think Nazmir was the best, followed by I think Zuldazar is probably my third favorite. So Nazmir, Vol'dun, and then Zuldazar. But they were all fantastic, really.
Every time I start an expansion or finish the leveling experience in expansion, I have my clear favorites. From Legion, I loved Stormheim, and Azuna, I visually loved. I had different reasons for loving certain things. I can't pick my favorite. The reason why Nazmir and Vol'dun stand out in my mind is because I was really nostalgically reminded of, specifically in Nazmir, the Swamp of Sorrows. This really depressing, dark swamp with troll ruins sinking in the water. And it was like Swamp of Sorrows vamped up.
And Temple of
600...
Atalhakar, yeah.
Right?
That's exactly what I thought of.
But like vamped up 600% with a sprinkle of scariness in there. I was like, this is
it was dark. Like, it wasn't just dark like aesthetically, like storyline super dark. Like,
bodies
they definitely
everywhere.
they definitely got a little they nailed it. I mean, obviously. But yeah, it like the whole thing with the necropolis and Bwonsamdi, like that part of Nazmir is like so aesthetically pleasing. Like, that whole thing was just so good. Like, they nailed these zones. Like, they just looked so good.
The jumping right off of that, going over to Vol'dun, the reason why Uldum is my favorite visually, like aesthetically, in Cataclysm, is the same reason I love Vol'dun, but the reason I think Vol'dun is about 700 times better is Vol'dun is what Uldum should have been. This wasteland that had little pockets of culture, but actual exciting story. You know, Uldum, you get there and you meet the tiger centaur people, the Tol'vir, and you're like, oh, these are cool. And you meet them for about 10 minutes, but before Harrison Jones shows up, and it's a giant meme, the entire zone. You're just like, okay, here comes the scene where the guy gets kicked into an airplane propeller, and here comes the scene where I'm going to dive into a refrigerator as the nuke goes off, and here comes the scene where, oh, look, there's a goblin with a German accent. Of course there's a goblin with a German accent. It was just one stupid joke, and I hate Uldum because visually, amazing. Story-wise,
storyline horrible,
awful,
horrible.
But Vol'dun was just perfect. Like the scary empire of the Sethrak. They really got the like abandoned, sunken ruins in the sand down. Like, I had fun running around those broken structures and pillars and seeing like the sand crumble down. I was like, damn. And when the sandstorms kicked in, I was like, whoa, this is dark. This is like this. I don't know if you were ever in the zone when the sandstorm kicked in, but like the skybox gets really dark.
Really dark. I was we saw that happen a few times, and we would walk like 5 feet, and we're like, what is this? It's so weird. And like, that's the weather effects are really. I mean, you're in a desert; they happen. But I was just I had such a negative perception of desert zones from like Daenerys and Uldum. I was like a little hesitant to start Vol'dun because I was like, am I going to be just FedEx questing and running across these giant sand dunes? But it wasn't like that at all. And I think they kind of had to combat that because it was kind of horrendous leveling through like Daenerys and Uldum, because like everything's spread out and there's no real storyline to follow. But Vol'dun's storyline was fantastic. Like, they all were, but just meeting the Vulpera and the Sethrak, but the temple, like even the Temple of Akunda questline, like I really enjoyed that for as little as it was. It was a nice little like excerpt.
The mini quest lines felt super important. They didn't feel like mini quest lines, even though they were.
Exactly.
They were like
you were doing them for a reason.
Mm-hmm. Let's loop back here to Zuldazar and kind of go through what happens there. To me, one of the reasons I chose Zuldazar, and I'm glad I chose it first, was it was a zone. Blizzard really took everyone's feedback on Suramar and how big it was. People were like, I want a Suramar for a capital city, and Blizzard was like, okay, we're gonna give you that. And Horde got like a tall city. Well, the Alliance got a sprawling city. Like it's flat, wide. But it's you can run for miles, while the Horde, you can fall to your death every 10 feet kind of thing. And something about running through the markets and running through the bazaar and running into temples and, oh god, there's scary things in here. This isn't a safe city. This is a huge metropolis of trolls, which,
Yeah.
trolls are, never safe. They've always got something going on. And the corruption within the city, I was like, damn, like, I was expecting, a T-Rex to come brawling through the wall, and I was like, no, I gotta worry about my throat being slit, because there's some assholes here. There's dinosaurs outside the walls, but this is scary inside the walls. And the corruption with the Zanculi Council, Yzma is purposefully ignoring these blood cultists, and when you bring it to her attention, she goes, oh, I'll bring it to Zul, not to the king. And you're like, you're not good at being subtle at all. Like, you're you're bad.
Like, you're just wrong.
You're the mistress of whispers, and you're yelling right now. You're being unnecessarily loud.
It's just so blatant from the beginning that they're there to screw up Rastakhan's day. Like, there's no working with him at all. Like, you can see it from the second you step into that city. So, like, I knew it was only a matter of time before, like, stuff came to light. But it's cool seeing it happen.
It to me, it was like, okay, this council is doing everything for their own purpose. And I knew eventually Zul betrays Rastakhan, but happening where it did, like, flat out betrayal, stabbing the king in the back, you're like, oh, literally, like, this isn't just a Zul is undermining the king for his own purposes for a long-term plan. This is, I arrived on the night of a coup. And and this is a theme that's across the entire zone, is meeting the different Loa, and getting to meet Gonk and Pa'ku was really cool. Gonk, for anyone who doesn't know, Gonk is the reason trolls can be druids. Back in the day when Salazane on the Darkspear Isles in Durotar, Darkspear Isles, that wherever the trolls start.
Echo Isles.
Thank you. Darkspear Isles is Warcraft 3. Echo Isles. The troll Loas were being trapped within the Emerald Dream, and the trolls weren't being allowed access. And basically, Gonk said, trolls are only allowed to worship one Loa. Why? Why can't they just worship other Loa? And he prompted this sort of movement amongst the Loa that, I think it was Shirvala, the tiger Loa, is actually against it, saying, like, no, we trolls have our own one, let the trolls have their own Loa and we'll fight over followers. And Gonk's like, nah, everyone can follow whoever they want. And that's why Darkspear are allowed to be druids, is because Gonk, back in the day, opened that up. So when they announced Zandalar, I was like, oh, I hope we see Gonk. As silly as the name is, I really want to see this raptor god. And actually, that's actually one of the lines when you see the Pa'ku and the Raptari arguing in the streets over whose Loa is better. The Pa'ku priest says, "Your Loa's name is Gonk. You should feel bad about that." Like, flat out just says, it's a stupid name.
It's a stupid name. Who did you pick? Sorry, the thunderstorm here. Who did you pick? Did you pick Gonk or Pa'ku?
I was on my raptor. I was on my orc hunter, and I thought orc with his wolf pack mentality, raptor. I chose the raptor.
Yeah, I went Pa'ku.
You chose.
I did.
Did you play around with Gonk's buffs after, or did you just keep Pa'ku the whole time?
I haven't. No. I actually went Pa'ku on both my tunes just because I liked having the flight points throughout the city.
I still have to learn where they go, because they always go the wrong direction that I want to go in.
But they definitely, like, I liked her intro quest too. She's like, I require a leap of faith. And you just go jump off the cliff. She's like, nope, I didn't mean that literally at all. But yeah, I liked, because that gives you kind of a sense of identity too within the city, of like being involved with their culture. Because why else would you be
city,
picking a Loa to follow?
Pick a Loa kind of thing.
Yeah.
I was going to ask this question at the very end. I will ask it at the very end, because we want to go through all the zones. But, meeting Gonk and meeting Pa'ku, it's funny because the rivalry that's there isn't there between the Loa themselves. They don't give a shit. It's just the followers. Pa'ku and Gonk are like, whatever. We're cool. We're both dinos, whatever. But seeing this sort of like Horde Alliance rivalry with Gonk and Pa'ku followers, it was kind of cool. It was cool to see that in story as well. So Zul backstabs Rastakhan literally,
Literally.
and the Garden of the Loa gets attacked. And this is where we lose our very first Loa. And I felt like the impact could have been a little bit heavier if Blizzard
Yeah.
gave Chandra some story, some lines.
Because when you think about it, like we haven't seen a lot of Shadra. Like you see
At
her
all.
a lot in is it
Zul'Grub.
Hinterlands? Yeah,
Yes.
Zul'Grub. And
And
Hinterlands has a big quest line revolving Shadra. But you don't really hear much more about her. And I think like you just kind of walk in and Yasma's like draining her and then it's over. But it would have been cool to see a little bit more impact. I just don't know how they would have done it.
what's interesting is that we've actually, I actually didn't even think about Chandra in the Hinterlands. I was thinking about her in Zul'Grub. Her priest, who she is a priest. Who can't think of her name right now, but just looking at her website here.
Marley?
Marley, yeah, and actually Marley is.
She was in Throne of Thunder.
She was. She was the Gurubashi representative.
Yep.
So I was thinking more like jungle troll, but you're right. She's in the Hinterlands, and not just like an avatar. She's flat out
Full on.
like there. You actually meet
Yeah.
Chandra in person, in the Hinterlands, and you kill her
Yeah.
there.
Mm-hmm.
But in Zuldazar, when when Yasma is draining her power, she says die forever. She tells Chandra to die forever, and I kind of wonder, Loa are wild gods. Loas can regenerate,
Yeah.
but I'm wondering
If she's actually gone.
Is this a permanent death? And like part of me is like, damn, like rip spider bro, but at the same time I'm kind of like, we didn't really get to know you at all. Like I feel like if it was Gonk or Pa'ku, you'd be like, no, whoa, bro.
You're like, I feel like I have a connection,
I
but
just jumped off
Chandra was just kind of there.
right? So I was kind of like, you walk in and you see her on the wall. You're like, oh, that's terrifying. That's a huge spider, and then it dies 5 minutes later. You're like, oh, all right. I suppose this should be sad, and then you walk away. I felt a little sad because I knew who Shadra was, but as a regular, if a player comes in and they've never seen her before,
They wouldn't have.
there's
Any
nothing there. So
Yeah.
I'm a little bit disappointed with Shadra's story there, but she's dead. So we'll see. We'll see if she comes
We'll
back.
see later.
Whatever. Uh, so there's a couple quest lines throughout Zuldazar, and we meet of course we meet Nessingwary, and we there's like a little quest where you visit this area where the Zandalari train their mounts, so they train their Triceratops and the pterodactyls and stuff like that. And it's not all just within the city; it's spread out.
Out in the.
You get to meet the Mogu. The Mogu have actually been brought to Zandalar, which I thought was really cool of Blizzard to use this asset that wasn't being used in the form of the Mogu from Pandaria, and they follow Zul. And Rastakhan actually even says, like, Zul, your pets are getting out of line. So, like, it wasn't a secret that the Mogu were there. It was
Yeah,
just...
because they're down in that war port. Because you have a big quest line down there to kind of cull them down a little bit. And that's one of the events leading up to Zul stabbing Rastakhan. So yeah, that was cool too, because you got to see the ties back into kind of mists. They weren't just kind of forgotten.
And they do mention
nice
they mention the Thunder King. There's a lot of like some of their
if you
aggro
read
text.
If you read the scrolls, there's a certain quest. If you have to go read 3 scrolls of Zul, they talk about like how they brought Lei Shen back and kind of all the events that transpired in Mists. So it's a good little tie-in. Like again, if someone's coming to the game with their boost and they're like, "Oh, I didn't play Mists at all. I have no idea what's going on." At least it gives them a little bit of like, why are these giant stone Mogu people here? Like,
Who are these people, kind of thing?
Yeah, exactly.
we get to the main quest line where Rastakhan is dying, and like physically he's okay, but like his soul is, you know, the betrayal of Zul is literally killing him. There's a mighty storm going on there.
Yeah, and my window is, it's gotta stay open. But yeah, sorry, it's spooky. Good ambiance. Don't worry about it.
It's okay. It's part of the plan. We meet. We find, this is where we first meet. Well, I guess depending on which zone you picked, but you meet Bwonsamdi, and I thought it was really cool to go and meet Bwon and to meet Razan at the same time, and Razan just screams at him like,
rips him a new one.
This is my king, back off. And he's like, all right, I'm cool. And I thought it was kind of cool to see two Loa not on like friendly terms.
Yeah, because they're so clearly not friends.
And, you know, Bwon is just this jokester, trickster character, so he kind of just giggles it off, and Razan's like, I don't have time for you, get out of here. And you know, we go and we find out Razan is being corrupted and twisted by Zul, so we go and we stop that from happening, and we save Razan, and then there's the big attack on Zul's temple, and we have Gonk with us, we've got Pa'ku with us, and we've got Razan with us, and the storyline ends when the attack on Zuldazar happens. Or did I get that right? Zuldazar?
Yeah, Zuldazar.
And Razan runs in ahead of us, and Zul uses his new magic from his new master, and basically rips Razan apart, rips his soul out, and Razan is just left as this husk. And we're gonna get to speculation right here. There's, before you do that before Razan dies, you can visit this building in Zuldazar, and there's these prelates, and they are called the Hand of Razan, or the Blade of Razan, or something, and they are Zandalari paladins. And Zandalari paladins have always been a thing. They were introduced in Throne of Thunder, they were mentioned in Vanilla, and when you think of Zandalari paladins, don't think of Uther wearing like some tribal bikini gear. Don't think of Zandalari wearing Warcraft 2 human armor set. Think of a Zandalari worshipping, kind of like how the Tauren worship the sun god. Think of the Zandalari worshipping their own Loa and the light coming through them through the Loa. So don't imprint your Uther Turalian paladin vision onto a Zandalari. I know a lot of like Alliance hardcore paladin fans hate the idea of a Zandalari paladin, but it's like, don't think of it as a paladin.
It's not, though. I mean, because even Razan, he's not a Loa of light. Like, he's the Loa of kings and queens, but they have this connection.
He conjures the light, but he's not made by Zira.
Exactly.
Before Blizzard says Zira made Razan, but you know, don't wreck on me, Blizzard. He's not a, like, he has light magic, but he's not the Loa of light. He's to them it's the Loa of kings. So when people get all flustered, it's like, it works. Not all paladins are the same. Anyway, there's no need to get flustered, because after Razan dies, if you go back to those prelates, that the leader, I can't think of her name right now, but she says basically like, we've lost our powers. Like, we can't hear Razan anymore. It's gone. And there's a little bit of a, I'm gonna see if I can find the exact text here. Her name is High Prelate Rada, and when the questline is complete, she says, "We are broken. The light of Razan has left us. Only a handful of those that follow the great king of the Loa still have any sort of power, and even they are suspect. Our life was devotion itself. Now who do we become?" And I and Shannon, this is where you're going to get riled up. When we saw this in the beta, Shannon and I looked at each other and we went, this is Blizzard's way of ensuring that Zandalari paladins will never happen. And I thought it was a little bit dickish. I was like, really?
Yeah.
Like, I pictured in my head Blizzard going, well, we're never going to allow this to happen, so how can we do this? And some guy going, well, let's just kill off Razan.
Let's just kill their Loa.
And
it's fine.
Rewrite the whole quest line. And that's not what happened. But to me, it was almost like a cheap way out. And I was like, well, they'll never be paladins now. And I want to say 2 months ago in an interview, the Q&A with Ian, one of the Q&As, someone asked, will Zandalari be able to be paladins? And he went off on this big long tangent about Razan and the light. And he goes, something happens to Razan, and basically he goes, spoilers, Razan bites it, and then he says, but could they get their powers from somewhere else? Is there something that can still happen? He goes, we'll find out. And he left it really open-ended.
That is not a no. It's not a no. It means it could still happen. And that had been brought up back way when Zandalari were introduced, when they released the class list that had been in beta. That had been data mined, and people are like, the BTF, why can't they be paladins? Like, why can they be priests but they can't be paladins? Doesn't make sense.
Right.
And then it was that interview where, like, if Blizzard doesn't say no, it is completely plausible that anything can still happen. So the fact that he didn't say no, I'm holding on to hope, because I wouldn't love anything more than playing a Zandalari paladin. I've been wanting it forever. So I'll just keep hoping. But I mean, it still could happen. Like, I see it happening.
Especially since none of the new Horde allied races get paladins, like, at all.
Yeah, and that's what people had been talking about too, is that, they were kind of going back to the vanilla thing where only alliance could be paladins, only Horde could be shamans, but then what do? They give Dark Iron shamans. So it's like, I don't know what you want from me.
it's weird. So fingers crossed for Zandalari paladins, because it is... Troll paladins sounds weird, but the Zandalari prelates, it works, and it's something I really like. Like, I actually hope Razan's storyline's not completely finished,
over,
because
did he actually
right? Like,
die?
we get no clue. As far as I know, like, you fight his body in that dungeon, and it says his soul was ripped from his body. So where's his soul?
But who's to say after the events of Old Deer that something happens? So it's definitely a possibility, I think.
I'm just going to turn you up on Discord here, Shannon, because there are some volume complaints about both of us. If you can turn your mic up just a little bit on your end.
Yeah, for sure.
And I just turned you up on my desktop. Technical difficulties, stand by. Snake Eyes says, if Zul was using the Faraki method of consuming the Loa, he's dead. Faraki, or do you mean Drakari? But we don't know if that's what happened. And, like, we don't even see what Zul does.
We have no context whatsoever. We just see Razan rush in, get pretty much obliterated, and then he's Skella Razan. Because even Zul nopes out of there, like, ASAP. So...
And Shadra, you could argue Shadra's dead because Yasma has physically transformed into this weird troll spider hybrid. But where does the essence of Razan go? This is the hand gesture for essence, apparently. I don't know. There's like nothing. There's no... It's just nothing. And I hope this is
There's no closure.
Right?
Yeah, there's no
I'm kind
closure.
of like, Razan, buddy, why'd you A, run in? And B...
because he's got a lot of buildup. I mean, just in the beginning events of the expansion, too. And just to see him get nuked is kind of disappointing. But it also leaves a lot open as to like where, because even he says, you know, like he's got a lot more plans for Rastakhan, and I feel like it's going to take a lot more than just severing his soul from his body to really keep him from coming back.
Maybe that's going to be what the Zandalari paladins are involved in, or something. I'm hoping that's we could speculate for hours on that. Let's actually jump right into the next zone. I did Nazmir second. What about you?
I did Nazmir last.
Okay, so I went to Nazmir because Talanji was like, I have an expedition I need to go on, and I said, fine, you know, your god's dead, but I guess I can come help you. And I went in expecting little. I played it at BlizzCon, and I was like, all right, this is cool, I guess.
Yeah.
But I went in expecting that I wouldn't enjoy it. I was like, it's going to be swamps. I'm going to be, like, swimming half the time. I'm going to not enjoy this. Yeah. And she's a little bit cheesy at the beginning. She's like, we're going to end this fight right away. We're going to kill the leader. And I was like, all right.
I'm just going to rush it.
Everything's going to go wrong, clearly, because the zone just started. And then we're introduced to how big the blood troll threat is. And we don't actually get a lot of context on who the blood trolls are or where they came from unless you look into the archaeology lore. So I've got a little expert here from Wowpedia. And a long time ago, during the final era of the Council of Tribes, the Council of Tribes was a period in Zandalari history where there wasn't one king, but multiple. Or something similar to that. A blood plague broke out, killing thousands of trolls. It was deemed that the bodies, too polluted for proper burial, would instead be burned and kept in special urns. As time progressed, this method became commonplace among the Zandalari in disposing their dead. After the Great Plague, there were still those who clung to the magics of the Blood God. They tested their magics and perfected them. One such relic was a totem that, when concentrated upon, would not just drain the life from their enemies, but also their blood, infusing the caster with it and altering them in unusual ways. This was the dawn of who the Zandalari call the Blood Trolls, and they've always been this insignificant threat to the Zandalari. They're this group of weird, savage witch doctors who lived in the spooky swamps, and no one cares about them because they're small in numbers. And Rastakhan continually dismisses Talanji, saying, you know, no, they're not a big deal. They've never been a big deal. They always attack our gates, all 12 of them. We push them back. That's it. And
there's dozens of them.
There are dozens of us. And turns out, Rastakhan's mega wrong because there are thousands of them. And right away you see this giant titan structure in the middle and this giant titan construct on top, and you're like, what is going on? Blood trolls and titans, there is something weird going on. Talanji then says, okay, we need an army, and she's like, we're going to recruit a whole bunch of Loa. And I thought, oh cool, you know, we met, you know, Razan, Shadra, Pa'ku, Gonk, we're going to meet some new guys. And 2 out of the 4 we know. So the first one we're introduced to is Hyreek, who is also a Zul'Gurub boss. Or not so much, but his priest was a Zul'Gurub boss. Loa of bats. And as someone who loved bats, when I found out it was corrupted, I was like, really? Of course the bat is corrupted.
Of course, he's mean.
You can never not have a good bat. Why couldn't he have been a nice bat? But he had to be an evil bat. Not only corrupted, but corrupted by the blood god. The bat was corrupted by a blood. I was like, really? Really? You couldn't have been corrupted by, like, the Lich King or something not stereotypical?
Nope, just blood.
The blood? Oh, come on. So right away, Hyreek is corrupted, and you kill him. You find out he serves Gahun, this mysterious blood god they keep referencing. Torga is another god that we're introduced to, and part of me, you know, the Tortolans all talk about him. And side fun note about the Tortolans, they were originally created for Hearthstone, for the Ungoro expansion. Blizzard was like, what if we had anthropomorphic turtles for this expansion for Ungoro? And the Warcraft team was like, that's amazing. We don't have that yet. Thank you.
They're amazing.
They're so funny. I love when you click on them, they go, greetings, Sir Andor. ma'am.
Madam.
It's the confusion at the end, ma'am. I crack up every time. I have this stupid grin on my face. They're covering their bases. They're making sure they don't know. So
the Torga quest line was a little devastating.
Right?
To be honest.
Did you see Torga right away? Or were you kind of like, what are they talking about?
No, I was like, oh, where are we? And then I was kind of like looking, and then they're like, they killed him. And I'm like, but where do you see this? And so I like lifted my camera up, and I'm like, oh, and it wasn't until you went in to complete the quest and the map location changes to Torga's innards, and I was like, what is this? Like, this is brutal.
This is dark. And like just the blood kind of pouring out of his nose, like onto his beak, and like half of his face missing. I was like, oh, chopping
him up on the inside. I'm like, wow.
How many Pandaren do you think were like traumatized because they thought of Shenzhen Zoo, their island? And they were like, oh my god. It was dark, and like to see the Tortolans not even get angry. They were more like disappointed. And they were like they stood up and they charged off into battle, and I was like, these guys said, I'm upset for them. I wanna help them.
And they seem, like pacifists.
Very
not
slow
really
to anger.
Yeah, but that was the one thing. I mean, that's their god. That's their way of life. I mean, they all make this giant pilgrimage to Torga to hear his stories.
They just want to hear him talk. They don't even want to worship him. He's not going to give them
power.
No,
they just want to hear stories.
They just want to chill with him.
And then
I feel sad now.
Yeah, it does. But it's okay.
It's okay. And because if you haven't done the zone, you get revenge on the blood trolls. Inside Torga's body, you see this old god minion. Remember, guys, it's a faction expansion. And you kill this old god minion, and the Tortolans are like, well, that's done. And Torga, before you charge in there, Talanji calls on Bwonsamdi and says, like, we want to talk to him. We want to talk to him. Can you speed dial him? And Bwonsamdi's like, nah, you got to give me something. And she gets mad at him. She's like, there's a dead Loa over there. Hyrik's dead. Go get him if you really want him. And Bwonsamdi's like, whoa, like, relax there. Okay, you're your father's daughter, kind of thing. And Torga appears for like a 30-second call, and then didn't want to pay the fee, so he hung up. And when you leave, Torga, what's the word I'm looking for? Reincarnates as this little baby turtle, and like the Tortolans are just so casually surprised, like, oh,
he didn't want to leave.
He just wanted to reincarnate. Oh, silly us. And they picks him up and puts him on his head, and then off they walk. And I was like, wait, actually? Like, looking at the giant body behind me, I'm like, there's a giant corpse here, and you're just okay with the baby? All right, that's cool. Let's go.
All right, that's cool. That's fine. But it was a good little...
It was a good soft ending.
Yeah.
Considering we just went inside the body of a giant big turtle man. Yeah. Which begs the question, the Loas can regenerate. So, Razan, what are you doing? I'll carry a baby Razan on my head. Just
yeah.
Let's go. We meet one of the coolest Loas that we get introduced to in Legion. Times change, Jesse. In Battle for Azeroth, and that's Krag'wa. Krag'wa the Huge. And I thought Krag'wa was really cool because anyone who just threatens to eat their enemies, I mean, I'm just like, that's the best way to deal with things you don't want to deal with, is just, I'm going to just eat them. And Krag'wa's a little fun fact for you that I learned while doing a certain quest line. The little Krogs that are being chased, that are being bred by the blood trolls, the little horrifying Star Wars looking things, they are actually the corrupted tadpoles of Krag'wa. And it's right in the name there, Krogs, Krag'wa, and they basically take the little tadpoles of Krag'wa, corrupt them into these Krogs, and then the Krogs can, I guess, reproduce naturally into these horrifying all teeth. There's a quest chain where you find a baby one, it earns your trust, and you bring it back to Krag'wa, you bring it back to Dad, and Dad like looks at it and says, there's nothing I can do for it, but it's not corrupted, so please take care of him. And you're kind of left with this little mutant child, and he like looks up at you. You're like, there, little mutant thing.
You're all right now.
You're all right. So I thought that was cool, and flying around on Krag'wa as you
oh yeah,
jump through the
decimate
air.
everything. Yeah,
Everything.
because he even just gets mad from the beginning because the blood trolls killed his last priest.
His last priest, yeah.
Yeah, and so he's like, I'm done. We're just gonna take care of this now. Because he, like, I think he's one that actually feels the impact of the blood trolls. Obviously Torga, but he's still alive, and he's like, okay, obviously this is a threat. Like, that was the Loa that Talanji was looking for help. So I'm glad we got to see kind of the impact on the Loas themselves, because like if I would have done Nazmir first, I would have been like, holy hell, like how did they kill a Loa? These things are like god tier, you know. How did they manage to do that? So to see that they're almost like they're threatened by them, it really kind of puts into perspective how much of a threat the blood trolls are.
And I think it really like shows like how important followers are to the Loa, because not that the Loa are like these cocky, arrogant gods, but like they rely on protection from their for the priests as much as the priests rely on them, kind of thing. There's this mutual bond in whatever their life mission is. You know, certain ones are all about courage and strength, and Razan only cares for kings and stuff like that. And Krag'wa is like, my last priest is gone. I've got no one. And you're kind of like, oh, buddy, I'm sad. You do meet a shadow hunter later on who eventually becomes his first priest. Krag'wa invites her to be his priest. And she says, oh, no, I can't. I'm not worthy. And he's like, excuse me, bitch. Like, who are you to tell me that my choice is wrong? Get over here. And she's like, okay, right? I'm coming. And then we meet probably one of the coolest Loas we're ever going to see on the entire continent of Zandalar. We meet Bwonsamdi, the Loa of death, the maker of bargains. Now, Bwonsamdi was introduced. We do see Bwonsamdi in Cataclysm. He is in-game in the the Darkspear Rebellion questline. And basically, Zalazane was raising these zombies and preventing the dead from passing on to Bwonsamdi or something, and Bwonsamdi wasn't for it. To the Loa of the dead, anything undead is bad. It's he despises anything undead. I wish he had flavor text for Forsaken and Death Knights. He doesn't, as far as I know. But he hates anything that's undead. He hates anything that's not living in the afterlife by his control, and they're insults to him. And so when Salazane offended him in wrath, he was eager to help Vol'dun. And Salazane has a role in this expansion. You can see him when you go into Bwonsamdi's temple. If you look up, you can see Salazane hanging from the ceiling in eternal torment. And there's Salazane's got a role. We won't say what, but there's something there. I think first walking into Bwonsamdi's temple, like into that whole area, was like heart gripping. Like it was like, whoa. Even
if you look at some of the dialogue, you see random trolls. They were like, I was sleeping in my bed and now I'm here. Like, what happened? So obviously they were sick and they died. And then the worst thing is that little baby girl troll. And I can't remember her name, but I'm like, oh my gosh. I was like, okay, this will be fine. We'll find mom.
So let's give some context for anyone who hasn't done it or anyone listening. This is where shit gets dark. You find this little ghost troll, a little female, and she's like, I can't find my mother.
She's like, she told me to stay here and it'd be fine.
But I can't find. And like when you accept the quest from her, Bwonsamdi says, go on and find her. I'll make sure they're together.
Reunite her with mom. Yeah.
And you're like, oh, this is gonna be nice. And you find her. You find mom in a sarcophagus.
Yeah.
But she's
not dead.
Not dead. She's living. And you're like, oh, you're not a ghost like your daughter. What's going on? And you find out that she ritually sacrificed her child to Bwonsamdi for eternal life. And when she sees the ghost child, she gets upset. She's like, you're ruining everything. And you're like, what?
Oh my god.
And the child is so excited to see your mom, and the mom's screaming, and then the mom turns on you and tries to kill you. You're like, what the fuck is going on? You kill mom, and the girl looks at you and says,
that's the worst.
What did she say?
She's like, it's okay. I forgive her. We'll be together forever now. And I'm just like, oh my god, like I can't. And it's like before you see the mom die, because she doesn't have any dialogue after her death, but she does the crying emote, like, oh my god, I'm stuck with this little shit. And like it was just heartbreaking, but it was the forgiveness of the little baby that was like my heart. What just happened? And for a side quest, just for something that's there, it was pretty deep.
That was dark.
Because that was playable at BlizzCon, but we did not see the entire quest line. So I thought, because you got to play during the Necropolis, and I was just like, I wonder what this is gonna be. Like, oh, you'll probably find her mom. Everything will be happy-go-lucky again. And then nope. But yeah, that whole area was very, very well done. Like, because just seeing the swarms of souls like rolling into his temple is just kind of crazy when you realize like the amount of bargains he's made to have all this coming to him.
Every single troll who dies, he claims. And that's why Salazane, who wasn't letting them die, he was like, I'm not cool with this. And it's interesting because death magic in World of Warcraft, we know a lot about the Fel, we know a lot about the Arcane, but the Shadowlands, specifically the realm of the dead on Azeroth, we know very little about. We know pockets. We know Odin was able to reach in there and create the first Valkyr by twisting Helia. We knew Helia has some connection to the Shadowlands. We know Sylvanas has something there. And now with Bwonsamdi, Sylvanas, the rumor that Helia's not actually dead, there's something going on.
Yeah.
And then there's the theory, with just gonna sprinkle the theory out there. What if Bwonsamdi isn't the top of his hierarchy when it comes to the god of the dead? What if there's someone above him? And there's some things, if you've read Traveler, if you've done the quest lines today, there's some things that are suggesting that there's something going on in the background. And I really hope we get to see, totally aside, but why do only trolls get sent to Bwonsamdi's temple? Is there a god of death for
everyone else, or is it just
why trolls? It's very singular. You'd think he'd just be okay with anyone, but he's very bring your trolls to me kind of thing. So
I will say too, if you haven't been doing your Zandalari rep, you need to be doing it, because it unlocks some more information about Bwonsamdi and Salazane. I won't get into it, it's totally spoilery, but definitely work on your rep. You need to be revered before the next tier of quests open up. And you're working with Talanji again, so it's continuing her storyline as well. So definitely work on those.
Bwonsamdi references someone a little bit higher up. So
yep.
Let's we'll talk about that in the future once we have a little bit more information, when people have a chance to play it. Quickly going through the rest of Nazmir here, we meet, some little fun storylines. We meet this goblin squad.
Cop squad.
You get to just run around in this giant mech. The Tortolans, you have a couple quest lines with them. And this is where you learn the story of the three seals. And there's three main temples on Zandalar. The Nazwatha seal, which is in Nazmir, and you find out that it only recently broke during the Cataclysm. When Deathwing emerged, it shook the entire continent of Zandalar to its core, which is the whole reason why Zul was in mists, because Zandalar was sinking. And Deathwing actually breaks the seal on the Nazmir disc by accident. We find that the disc, the seal in Vol'dun, was broken many, many years ago by a Cathraxi general named Mithrax. And then we find out that the last seal, literally the giant wheel where Bane is standing in Zuldazar, is the last one that's unbroken. And you have this big final battle at the center complex in the middle of the swamp. The goblins show up. You send the giant Titan construct tumbling into the darkness. Spoilers, he's an Uldir boss. And you kind of don't really get much answers on who G'huun is, but it's there. There's whispers there, and you learn that he's an old god entity. They flat out say he's an old god, but there's more to him than we don't know yet. Like, if you've read spoilers, but there's more to G'huun that we haven't seen yet. That's going to be coming soon.
And we kind of find out too through, was it Titan Keeper Hazrul, who you meet in Nazmir, and when you do the Underrot, he mentions that Mother is not responding. So it's more that there was this rampant corruption in Uldir, and they're no longer able to contain it. So it's almost like there was that boss in Siege of Orgrimmar.
Neuroshan.
He's it's exactly like that, where they're trying to contain that. Obviously now it's a different type of corruption, but they're still trying to contain it. But like, those Titans are vulnerable after standing guard for millennia, and something happens like that, that they can be corrupted. So it's interesting to see how that happens. I really want to see Uldir really laid out. So I'm very excited for that to be released in a few weeks, because I think that's going to open a lot of information about G'huun and that entire Titan facility, really.
You brought up before we started the pre-show that if you talk to the Titan construct in the chamber of the Heart of Azeroth, where you get your neck piece, there's this Titan construct, and she's impaled on this massive piece of azurite. And when you talk to her, she lists a bunch of Titan facilities: Ulduar, Uldum, Uldir, Uldazi, and another one. And she goes through a list of them, and it's curious that they put that in there. I love Titan complexes. I love when Blizzard, because they're literally buried around Azeroth everywhere.
Yeah.
The Tomb of Sargeras is built on a Titan complex. You go in there at the very bottom. That's all, and we know how big those complexes are. So how far does that go? Kind of thing. So,
well, it's like, how many are there that they don't even know about? Right? I mean, yeah. So because she goes off, it's like she's trying to list one more. She just goes old, and then obviously can't finish it. So I hope we see more of them. Like, Titan facilities are just so cool. I'm glad those aren't being forgotten from Legion, because being at like the seat of the Pantheon and everything, just seeing all of that is like, is this going to be like as much as we see of the Titans? Like, this has got to be it, right? But no, like, obviously they're playing a much bigger part in this faction expansion.
Totally not an old god expansion.
No.
So at this point, before we jump to Vol'dun, I realized that the Bwonsamdi cinematic that plays the bargain cinematic, I realized that is scheduled to play after you finished Zuldazar and Nazmir. you don't have to complete Vol'dun. I believe you only have to complete those 2 zones because basically in the cinematic, it's referenced that Razan is dead, and it takes place at the Bloodgate, specifically at the gates, after you've met Bwonsamdi. So I think the 2 criteria are you have to have met Bwonsamdi and get to know him at his temple, and you have to have Razan dead. At this point, you have the cinematic plays, and you see Talanji and her raptor mount, her Ravasaur mount, Xena. They're mourning the loss of, you know, all the dead Zandalari, and Razan, and Rastakhan strikes a new deal. And he begs Bwonsamdi to be his Loa. And he says, I'll raise you above all other Loa, to which Bwonsamdi says, that doesn't do it for me. I need something else from you. I need more than just your word. And Rastakhan says, I will bind my bloodline to you. All who inherit the throne after Rastakhan will serve Bwonsamdi in life and in death. And then Rastakhan responds, forever. And Bwonsamdi and him shake on it. And I don't see Rastakhan surviving the expansion.
No.
No. Rastakhan has been around he's 200 years old. He's an old troll. He's pretty spry. Like he's pretty mobile for an old man.
An old man.
But they're setting up for, as we, Shannon and I gushed earlier about Talanji, the queen of Zandalar, but now there's something else here. Now there's a bargain that she didn't agree to, that her father made.
It pissed me off so much seeing that. I was like, dude, come on. Because even she is like shaken. She's like, I felt something. What was that? And he's like, don't worry, I've taken care of everything. I'm like, dude, no. Like,
did you catch his line? Like what the line was kind of a quote to? I've taken care of everything.
What am I missing?
It's a subtle reference. Warcraft 3, you no longer need to bear the weight of your crown. I've taken care of everything, and Arthas stands up and then kills Taranis. So now you've got the son and the father, and now you've got the father and daughter.
And it just made me so mad, like, because she's a priest too. That's just like completely not gonna fly when that comes to fruition, because what happens when Rastakhan dies? Does Bwonsamdi be like, oh hey, by the way, this is what your dad did? Like, that's just not gonna work. I can see her completely losing it.
I wonder how Rastakhan's gonna die and how that's gonna come into play. Will Talanji learn the truth before her father dies? And the intentions are there. Help me save my kingdom, but my bloodline.
What are the repercussions?
What are the repercussions? We'll talk about that. Let's quickly go through Vol'dun because it's cinematic. We really got to get to. Vol'dun, again, I went in not expecting much. You actually worded it perfectly. A FedEx line. I thought, okay, we're just going to be delivering packages across. It's going to be boring. And it wasn't. We still met our fair share of Loa. We meet Akunda, the what is he? He's a thunder lizard.
Thunder lizard, yeah. We
meet Kimball, the tiger Loa.
Mm-hmm.
And who's the other one we meet? Sethrak, but we meet her in a dungeon kind of thing.
Yeah.
So the story, I'll let you talk about the story because these are your notes specifically for this.
Yeah. I actually I love the Vol'dun storyline. So basically, you get approached by a war guard, and she's like, Jok'Rozet's up to something, and Rakira has gone missing recently. So you go around and you're talking to, you have 3 people you need to talk to. They're like, what, are you crazy? Don't bring any of this up. You're going to get exiled to Vol'dun. Because Vol'dun's like the wasteland. So all the prisoners go there. Like, you're sent there to die. Like, you're not expected to live once you get there. So you go in, fly into the zone, and you actually get shot down by Korthek, who was with General Jok'Rozet. and you're rescued by the little Vulpera. I didn't really know what to think of them when we first saw them in the trailer, but I loved their whole like little culture because they're scavengers. Like they're adorable. Like I just love them so much.
I'm gonna jump in there and defend the Vulpera because a lot of people just. I can hear an echo. There's an echo. Oh, no.
Is it better now?
A little better?
Nothing's changed.
I don't know what changed. Technical difficulties. Oh, okay. I don't hear myself anymore. Okay, we're good. I thought it was Niall talking. I was like, Niall! Stop saying the words that I'm saying. Oh, wait. A lot of people are like, man, the Vulpera are just a bunch of little furries. And I thought, oh, God, fox people, really? And then their culture is so not what I expected. They're very the scavengers and the caravans, and they're like thief-like versions of the Grummels, and still humorous but vicious. Like they when cornered they fight, and I was so like I am okay with if the Vulpera become playable. I'm not even mad at this point.
I'm like, and you see kind of the similarities on the Alliance side too, because most of them are like pirates. So they take up the kind of scavenging piracy theme on that end too. So it's good to see that like reference on it as well, because obviously that's their zone. Like the Vol'dun is where they are. But to see that some of them have left and like have kept their little treacherous ways is kind of neat. But I loved them. Like I loved them absolutely, and I love Dolly and Dot so much.
Dolly and Dot are my best
friends.
You know that's
Diva.
That's Diva. That's Diva.
I had to be. I was like, that's Diva.
That is that's Taryn Gregory's wife. Anyone who played a hunter or hunter, I guess she's a hunter.
Yeah, in Legion.
She was
Addie
Fizzlebog.
Fizzlebog.
Anyway, sorry. Continue. I can hear my echo again, by the way.
I don't know what's going on.
It's okay.
Just move my microphone over here. Say something?
Hello. Nope, I'm good. I don't hear an echo.
Okay. I don't know if my mic's just now picking up you for no random reason. But yeah. So you get rescued by the Vulpera. You kind of rain down vengeance on the Sethrak because they've been taking Vulpera prisoner. And then you go on the caravan. You actually find Warguard Rakira at the Temple of Akunda, and there everyone is Akunda. So there's no identity, there's no anything, and I forget the guy who's leading it.
Akunda.
I absolutely forgot his name. But he's basically enslaved Akunda and taken his powers. And you help save him from those chains. Rescue Rakira, rescue all the people that were kind of enthralled and mind controlled in that little area. That was another cool kind of quest line for me too, because you get to see another Loa. But then you go off, you get attacked by General Jock Rosette's kind of minions, and chase the alpacas down, and you find a little Sethrak, and you're like, whoa, no, what is this? They're bad. So that's when you find out that you meet Vorik. You find out long ago the whole like Sethrak empire, because we had no backstory whatsoever for Sethrak. So I was really excited to hear where they came from. But basically, like long ago, there were 3 Sethrak leaders, and they all lived, kind of in harmony. But their Loa, Sethraliss, had sacrificed herself to keep Mithrax kind of chained away in, what is the temple out there? We said it already.
With a seal is Atulaman.
Atulaman, yeah. So there's this giant construct right in the middle of the desert. So she had sacrificed herself to keep him contained within that prison, basically. And And now Korthek, who was one of the original Sethrak leaders, leads this kind of band of faithless who are working with the general to release him. And so we basically go in, kind of wreak havoc on the Sethrak, and basically think we're going to stop everything. Get to the final conclusion of the zone, and you confront Jack Rosette, and he jumps into this giant pit in the ground, and he's the final sacrifice to raise Mithrax from his prison. So then we have this giant old god minion again, ready to be
faction expansion.
Yeah, faction expansion. And we see him actually in the end campaign cinematic. So I really liked Vol'dun. I was wondering if we would see good Sethrak, because they just look mean. Like, saw him in the trailer, you're like, these guys are gonna be bad. We're gonna be fighting them the whole time. But I really like Sethralus. Like, I loved that dungeon. I loved everything about it.
I haven't actually done it, so I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well,
I believe you though. The bar's set.
Don't play a healer.
Don't play a healer. Got it. Never do. I really liked the mini quest lines in Vol'dun. Meeting Kimball, like the very, very, very northern part of the zone, there's another Loa, and you meet the Tiger Loa up there, and you go there, and it was kind of different because it was a jungle terrain, but his temple's completely overrun with spiders and just vegetation and stuff like that. And you go there, and he's got no followers; they're all gone. And you're like, "Hey, buddy, where's your crew? Where's your fam?" And you find out that the Naga long ago came and killed them all. He showed up too late, and so he went to Apeshit Town, killed all the Naga. But in the final battle against the leader of the Naga, she curses all of his followers into this eternal unrest. And he hasn't taken on a single new follower since, because he failed his old ones, and he feels this. He goes, I can't take on any new ones when my old ones are still suffering. And there's all these nearby Tortolans in this little village who are about to be overrun by Naga, and they're like, yo, we'll be your followers. And he's like, no, I can't take you. And they're like, can you please just take us? We're gonna die. So you help him free his followers, and then he accepts the Tortolan. And he's got like a really deep Gonk-like voice. You're just like you could just talk. Like, I'll just listen and you talk.
Yeah. I liked, there was another quest line too down on the southern coast.
The pirate one, the
pirate one.
That was a roller coaster. That was
right.
It was all these undead trolls who have been cursed into. And what's cool is you go to this port, and you see all these undead trolls. And I thought, okay, I'm gonna mouse over them, and you're gonna see like undead. It's gonna say like zombified troll.
Nope.
Pirate.
All named.
Every single enemy in the area is a named troll, as if they have an identity, they have a personality. You have, the navigator and the map maker and the chef, the innkeeper, the taskmaster, the deck boy, the guy who swabs the deck, stuff like that. But they're all skeletons. There's not a single generic NPC that's just undead troll. And I was like, This is really cool. And you steal treasure with them, and I thought, oh, there's going to be like a sad ending. And you just run off with them. They're just like, no, we're going to join your caravan. Yeah. And they do, and they just run off carrying their boxes of treasure, and you're like, all right, this fair. Is the thing.
But it was like a cute, I liked that quest line a lot. But it was like Vol'dun actually had a lot of like different topography within it, because there's an oasis right in the middle.
Yes.
Too.
With the little inn storyline?
The little inn with all the spirits.
So, what did you think of that quest line?
I didn't know what to think, but it was...
I thought... anyone who hasn't done this, you meet this crazy old troll living in a cave in the middle of this oasis. Like, he's got beautiful trees, water, hippos, but he lives in this little cave. And he goes, welcome to my inn. And you're like, this is a cave. This is not an inn.
Here's a rock.
And he goes,
this is my innkeeper.
He's like, let's let's introduce you to the staff. And you're like, there is no staff. And you go around and there's skulls. And there's 3 different skulls around the room. And he goes, go on, talk to them. And you're just like, okay. So you can choose like your dialogue, and you can choose to like insult the skull or compliment the skull's hat. And you're like, this guy's fucking crazy. And you go off nuts. And he gets you to make this crazy brew, and he gets attacked by assassins. He survives, but his staff gets kidnapped. So they steal the skulls, and he's all concerned for his staff. So he's like, I need you to go get my staff, go get my employees. I'm worried for them. And you're like, okay, sure. So you bring them back, and he's like, let me make you my brew. And you make the brew, and you drink it, and you vomit. But when you're done vomiting, you turn around, and every single skull is actually a spirit of a troll who was actually part of his gang, and they're all dead, but they're still there. And during the quest line, before you see them, he like talks to them, but you don't see their dialogue. So he's like, yeah, don't worry, I'll tell them about the all-you-can-eat breakfast. And you're like, what are you...
You're nuts!
And then you talk to the guy after, he's like, did he tell you about my all-you-can-eat breakfast? And you're like, oh my god, you're not crazy. You literally have like a whole bunch of friends here. And it was like, it's actually like a really feel-good story, because at the end, one of the guards that you fly into Vol'dun with comes wandering in, and he's all delusional. And because you've now helped this crazy troll set up his inn, you set up the all-you-can-eat fruit breakfast, you have the water, you like take him to each station, and you feed him, and you bandage him.
And you put him to bed.
It's adorable. And the innkeeper is so happy. He's just like, here's coupons, go give coupons to people. And I was like, this is the cutest, craziest old man troll.
It was just weird, because it came out of nowhere, too, because you're just like, okay, oases are a thing in deserts, but I didn't expect a quest line like that to come out of it. I was like, what? I was like, this dude is like a stage 5 nutto. Like, he is just crazy. Because, I figured he was delusional from like being out in a desert, and you're like, okay, he's made friends with his skulls. That's cool. But to actually see that they were there the whole time is made me feel a little bit better. But
I was like, oh, you're not crazy. And they're all so excited that you can see them too. You're like, oh, one of the lines Snake Eyes says here in chat, I managed to escape with a banana. It seemed appropriate at the time. And literally he's just holding a banana. You're like, because again, you're like, okay, so something's off about you.
Yeah.
And maybe there is, but he wasn't crazy. He had his buddies. And like one of his buddies is a flight path. Like she literally sets up a flight path. Anyway, we're derailing here. Vol'dun was fun. I loved Vol'dun.
Vol'dun was great. Yeah, I just had really a negative thought going in, because like I said, I hated Tanaris. Like I hated Uldum, because I hated desert zones. Like they were just so stale to me. Like I didn't find anything fun about them, but like Vol'dun completely did a 180 from those. It was done very well, because there were all those different zones. Like, you're in a desert, but okay, there's a coastline, and then there's an oasis, and then there's you have the giant temple. But it was cool to see. So I was actually I really liked Vol'dun a lot.
I don't know what it was about jumping around. Like, troll ruins are cool, like troll buildings and Zuldazar are cool, but running around the abandoned, crumbling ruins in both Nazmir and in Vol'dun, I don't know, that adventure style, it really rang true to like old school Swamp of Sorrows and old school like Zul'Farrak.
Like nothing structured at all. You're running through, there's no roads, there's no anything, you're just going through the zone, getting attacked by everything. But it was good, super good. All the zones were just totally amazing.
So we've completed all 3 zones, and now you've got the attack at the Bloodgate, the Zandalar forever scenario. And this is where like the culmination of all 3 zones, characters you've met come pouring in. You hop on the back of a giant T-Rex and you start blasting blood trolls to bits. It's fun. And you get to the city, and Krag'wa decides to block the way. He's like, I'm going to hold the line against the blood trolls. I'm going to eat everyone who shows up. And you're like, you go, man.
All right. Neat.
I actually want to see like the projections, like a graph of all the trolls sent to Bwonsamdi from Krag'wa eating
From
them.
Krag'wa.
Just like just the investment alone that he should make on Krag'wa.
Right?
Then you meet, or not meet, but Pa'ku shows up. And Pa'ku gives Rastakhan so much sass. She's like, there are snakes on your western border. Do something about it. And she screams at him because finally, at the beginning of the storyline, you know, Talanji is saying, Father, there's blood trolls and, you know, there's snakes, and he's ignoring everyone. And she shows up. She's like, do something, you fool. And you're kind of like, thank you. Someone said it.
Thank you for someone saying that.
And then you fight through the streets and you save the NPCs there. And you actually see Mira, the little Vulpera fox diva's there. And the two guards. And you get to the main square and you can see... I don't remember seeing Gonk anywhere. I'm sure he's there, but I don't remember seeing him. Kimball, Akunda is actually holding the line against the Sethrak.
Yep.
Kimball is on one of the other bridges where Mithrak shows up, and you cross into the main temple. You ascend up the way. You fight Mogu, blood trolls, blah blah blah. Mithrax is growing bigger and bigger. It doesn't explain why he's growing. He's just pissed, so he's getting big. And then the big cinematic plays, and there is Mithrax. Remember, the two seals, the seal in Nazmir, the seal in Vol'dun, they're broken. So the last one you need to break is the one in Zuldazar, and that's why Mithrax is there. That's the whole point of Zul's betrayal. You've got Zul's betrayal in Zuldazar, the Blood Troll army from Nazmir, and Mithrax in Vol'dun, all converging at once. And what was your thoughts after you saw that cinematic? After you saw Rastakhan's, you know, yell at Bwonsamdi, like, give me your power. What was your thoughts?
So I was disappointed in the fact that it actually happened, but I knew it was going to, right? He was going to break that final seal. But I think Rastakhan thinks that Zul is dead. But we know he's not. He's a boss in Old Deer. But I would have liked to see the repercussion from the cinematic back in game when you go back into your inn, of that seal being like shattered or something. You know what I mean? Because there was nothing there that kind of showed the difference between what it looked like broken versus unbroken. But also...
Because it is cracked when you go back to the city.
Yeah, but it's like not... Like, it seemed a lot more devastating than it actually was. You know what I mean? Like, he throws this giant purple beam at it, and it seems like it was just going to completely shatter the whole thing. So, but where'd they go afterwards? Because you don't see him walk away or anything. He's just like, oh, they're there. You don't see Zul, but he's not dead. I don't know.
It almost ended abruptly. Not even the cinematic ended perfectly. It was the after bit, because then you just go to the top of the temple,
and he's sitting back on his throne.
He's like, "Hey, yeah, what's up? How's it going?" You're like, what about Mithrax outside?" "Oh no, he just walked away." "Oh, okay, yeah, that's cool, I guess." I did feel a little bit weird about Mithrax and what happened to the army. Obviously, Zul isn't.
Yeah, like, do they just, like, oh, okay, we broke the seal, we're gonna, like, turn back around and head the other way? It's like, where did they go afterwards? You know what I mean? Obviously, they all head back to Nazmir, but it's like, you don't see any of that. Like, I don't know.
It's a little bit frustrating, because we know Zul is reborn, so Zul becomes a boss in Uldir. He's called the Zul, the Prophet Reborn. We know Mithrax is inside the temple of Uldir, but what's weird is, and maybe we'll get this answered, how do they get into Uldir, considering one of the first bosses is the cleansing boss? You have to be cleansed to enter. So how does Zul...
I think probably
there's got to be like a hidden passage or something, but
I think when they fell through the top, I think when Tulok fell through the top, it might have opened the passage
Oh yeah.
Down. Yeah, that's got to be it, because Mother is not even the first encounter in there. So
Isn't Talak the first encounter?
yeah, but Mother is like the gated boss where you have to move through the fields, like the corruption, like sanitation, like I don't know how to explain it, but there are like these walls where you can only pass through them if you're not corrupted. So she's not even the first encounter. So Tolok is the first encounter. He's the one that fell through the roof. So I'm assuming they just all like go pop in through the roof and, set up shop in there. But yeah, it was super disappointing to not see any aftermath of that giant battle, because like you've culminated all these forces from 3 different zones to come defend the city, and then they break the seal and fuck off. So it's like, what happened? I don't get it.
It's a little bit frustrating, but there's some big implications, because Bwonsamdi says, "We did. Congratulations, Your Majesty. Our empire is, he says we've taken the empire. We've taken the empire. What is it? What is the line he says? Are you looking it up too?
Yep, I'm trying.
Okay. All right. And I definitely think that Rastakhan's death is going to play a role in 8.1, 8.2, maybe not 8.1, 8.2.
City is ours.
And I'm really curious what that means for Talanji. I'm really curious, what is this bargain gonna do for the new queen of Zandalar?
And it also opens up because we've been seeing a lot of Rokon, and I think he's gonna play a big part in the allied races, because obviously we know we're getting Zandalari, but how do they really come into the Horde? Because they don't, they're their own independent, they can take care of themselves type thing. You've helped them, but why would they want to join the Horde? I want to see the interactions between Rokon and Talanji. And Niall brought it up. He's like, they're gonna get married. Totally possible, but it's also like the trolls don't have a leader right now. I want to see Rokon step up for sure. Yeah, because he's been really great in this expansion too.
And I'm curious, because people forget that Zandalar, sure, we help save the day, right? But we're the heroes, right? Zandalar is its own faction, pretty much. It's its own empire. It's its own huge standalone city. That it's not like the High Mountain joining, even the Suramar, Suramar elves, decimated in numbers. Zandalar is this massive empire, and I'm curious, what does that mean when Sylvanas shows up? And Rastakhan just going to bow to the new war chief? Is Talanji just going to bow to Sylvanas? I want to wrap this up here very quickly. What do you think, or tell us from leveling, what was your favorite minor quest line and your favorite character?
So my favorite minor quest line was in Zuldazar, and it was about these 2 almost extinct Brutosaurs. And I know that the male's name was Benjin, and you're basically helping them try to get along. So there's a female and a male Brutosaur, and you work with, what is it? It's a goblin and a troll. And one is very science-based and one is very nature-based. And they're like, we got to get these 2 to love each other. They're the last of their kind. And it was just it was a funny little quest. Like, you turn the male Brutosaur like really small to go approach the female, and she basically like no almost punts him away, and she's like, nah, I don't need that. But it was funny, like it was cute. And then you actually like after you complete that quest line, once you hit a certain level, I don't know if it's after you hit 120 or if it's just after you complete a few more quests, you get like a little letter saying like how they're doing and how they love each other and how you saved their race or their species. But it was cute. Like, and then favorite minor character.
It doesn't have to be minor. It could just be any new character that you're really just, Talanji I know you're excited for, so anyone else?
Yeah.
I think Talanji is everyone's favorite right now.
I don't know. Probably. I actually really liked. What is his name? He was the little Sethrak leader. Not Korvek, but Vorik.
Yeah.
I really liked him. Like he's where you learned all of their lore pretty much. So he was just I really liked him just as like a little lead in to like learning everything about the Sethrak for sure.
He was, and you learn that the Sethrak are moderate. They're pretty good. They're pretty tame.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me, my favorite mini quest line, I want to say something else. I really loved the inn with the skulls because I was at the very end. I was so like, oh my god, he's not crazy. I just judged him. I feel like a dick now, and he's so happy. I want to say something else because I already talked about that one. The pirate with the Zandalari pirates, that was fun. I'm trying to think of Nazmir. What did I do in Nazmir?
Angel brought up the Jurassic Park quest where you throw the fire at the charging T-Rex when you're riding around on the
and it goes apeshit. Yeah.
Yeah. There is actually too in Nazmir, if you guys do battle pet quests at all, he's like Trader Grady or something Grady, and then he has 3 little raptor pets, one named Delta, one little Blue,
oh cool,
and then another one. So it's just totally referencing the new Jurassic World movies, and he's a void elf, which is weird. I didn't think Chris Pratt would be a void elf, but it's fine.
I'm really stumped on my favorites. I loved meeting the lesser Loas. I loved Akunda's questline, and I loved Krag'wa's questline, and I loved Iraka no Kimball's questline was just really cool because it's off in the middle of nowhere by himself, and I thought that even though they weren't like Gonk and Pa'ku and Razan, they were crucial to the storyline.
Yeah.
But these other ones, especially the ones in Vol'dun, which had nothing to do with the Loa, like the Loa are needed for the other zones. You just kind of meet those by chance. I thought it was really cool to see those. I for once I always say do the main storylines and then go to the side quests after, but don't skip the side quests this time.
No, definitely not.
They made the side quests like really, really worth it. And I just had so much fun leveling on Zandalar. My favorite character, I'm digging Bwonsamdi. I'm loving just how I want to see. Oh, I would love a cinematic between him and Sylvanas.
Oh God!
Can you imagine how sassy he would be and just how offended she would be at everything?
They're both gonna be just at each other's throats. Like, because she's everything that he goes against. Like
he would be like draped over her, like have an arm around her, and he'd be. It's the pairing we need to see on screen.
Yeah.
Favorite minor character? I did not even come prepared for my own question. Worst host ever. I have a minor character. Bwonsamdi. I loved the couple, the ex-wife and husband, Pa'ku and Gonk. always fighting and insulting each other, and don't talk about my sister and stuff like that. And just the little relationships and rivals that we see all over Zandalar. You know, meeting Mira, the little and Dot and Dolly, the little alpacas, and meeting just the crazy old troll in the cave. And especially nowadays, everything's voice acted.
Yeah,
it brings it all to life.
The immersion is there. I mean, it's not just like turning in a quest and like running off and doing another one now. Like, you feel connected to them, and that's why, like, the first time I leveled, I kind of blew through stuff just to get to 120 because that's what I do. But the second time we leveled, we actually did like every quest in the zones, and they weren't really like side quests. Honestly, they weren't just like these filler quests where you go to a new area and it's like kill 12 of these things. Like, they had purpose, so it definitely made questing feel a lot more impactful. It wasn't just bring my mail to this innkeeper in another city because why not? You know, there were reasons behind it all, and I really liked that.
Agreed. I am just loving everything about Zandalar, and I just hit 120, so I have so much more to unlock. There's so much more. I wish I could talk about some of the things that I know is happening, but I want to give it a little while before people could, you know, for people to experience themselves, myself included, but also so I can see context. I want to see everything. I don't know what happens on the other side. So thank you, Splendor. We will be back, guys, to talk about the Alliance side because I am starting that tomorrow, and I am super excited. Kulturas, I've wanted to go to Kulturas for years. Zandalar is everything I could have possibly hoped for. And I'm just excited for more dinosaurs and more Loas and
pirates.
more Razan. Razan, where are you? We need you. Like Talanji says in the cinematic, I miss Razan too. Shannon, thank you so much for coming back.
Thank you for
episode 18. Holy
cow!
Already.
That's crazy.
We'll bring you back. We're gonna bring you back for some lore speculation. This was just like a brief coverage and opinions and stuff, but when we dig real deep into especially when we start getting some juicy faction details that are coming out with war fronts and the war campaign, we'll bring you and Jack on, because the reason I wanted to have you guys on the same podcast is you're both Horde players, but like you're both not cool with what's going on right now. Like there's shit that's like, you know, you're sensible Horde players, not like, well, my war chief didn't do anything wrong. I
follow Sylvanas just because I like her because she's pretty.
You know, I people are allowed to like the characters they like, but
Jaina's the Loa of trash. Oh, Johnny. I was like, Jaina.
We didn't talk about Johnny.
Johnny. Oh, I totally forgot Johnny.
Oh my God, Johnny.
Johnny's the best.
And I can't believe we. I know what you're gonna do. Okay, so go ahead.
I don't know why it's so funny, but Johnny, the little Saurid Loa, I'm sorry, I thought he was a she, is the little Loa of scavengers. And so if you're questing around randomly, like I found my first one actually in Nessingwary, you click on these piles of trash, and then you get kind of transported and you're communing with Johnny. He's this little Saurid, but he's a jerk. Like, you go and you bite this guy on the ass, but every time, like, so if you get attacked by mobs on the way in and you respawn, he laughs at you and he's like, yeah, like, and it's just the funniest little sound, and I don't know why, but I love him. Like, totally favorite Lola, like, by far. Like, I specifically haven't completed this Nessingwary quest because it's just hilarious to die and then have him laugh at you. Like, it's just so bad.
I haven't done the biting on the ass in the Nessingwary area, but you bite someone on the ass in the city as well.
In the city. Yeah.
And when Shannon and I were talking in the pre-show, she kept doing the Johnny laugh, And I just kept giggling. I kept cracking up. Just this little, and like the voice comes up and it's like written and it's like yuck 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 yuck, and it's like the most. Oh god,
I love Johnny. Like it's just one of those little minor characters where it's just there, but it's hilarious. But oh man,
indeed. All right, guys. This was fun. Thank you, Shanyn, for joining me. Thank you guys for joining us on this live podcast. I think we're going to start doing this more often because it's fun, a little bit more interactive. Going to be ending the stream now. Anyone who's listening, you can, and you haven't checked out our Teldrassil video. We did a Teldrassil video last week covering the full story of Teldrassil from an in-character perspective of a night elf, and it was actually one of the most difficult projects we've ever had to do because of the time schedule. Like, it was an emotional episode, but it was also like, go check it out. Like, it was fun to do, and it's voice acted, so let me know what you guys think of that. As always, you can find us on Twitter, twitter.com/the Lost Codex. You can find us obviously on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. We have a Patreon if you're interested in supporting what we do, patreon.com/the Lost Codex, where we've got all sorts of rewards. And join our Discord. We have a Discord. People talk and yell at each other, and there's a selfie channel, and they post mostly their dogs, but that's okay. That's all I want to see. And of course, here on Twitch, now that my computer's up and running, now that Battle for Azeroth is out, we are going to be streaming a hell of a lot more. And maybe we'll do some group streams. Shanyn will bring you on. Shanyn, you don't stream anymore, do you?
not a ton.
All right, well, we'll bring you on, or you can stream on your own, and we'll send everyone your way. Tell people where they can find you.
You know, I leave
like not in real life. That's creepy.
Yeah, no, don't please, no. You can actually follow my Twitch. Probably will start streaming again sometime soon. It's just twitch.tv/snazzy Shanyn if you want, just a tongue twister in there. Also, if you guys want to follow the Blizznerds page, actually one of the managers on that. We post a bunch of cool stuff, do a bunch of stuff at BlizzCon, do giveaways.
Oh, yes. If you guys are, is the Blizznerds party still available to sign up?
Blizznerds party has about less than 50 tickets left out of the 250. So we're almost sold out. We partner with Jinx, a bunch of places, give away a bunch of free stuff. So it's always fun. Something to do at BlizzCon. So yeah.
If you're going to BlizzCon, guys, definitely check it out. And this year the party is in the Hilton, so it's where all the other parties are. So if you're a party hopper like me, you don't have any reason to skip this one. It's going to be on the first floor, in the main room off to the side, right when you walk in, I believe.
Yep.
So if you're going to BlizzCon, you're going to be in the California region, or you're just local. Come hang out. Shannon's going to be there. I'm going to be there. We're all going to be there.
Great.
It's going to be fun. Guys, we'll see you next week for episode 19, probably an Alliance-themed one. Hopefully I can get to 120 by then. And we'll bring in someone to talk about the Alliance. And Shannon will be back in the future, of course. And that's all. Thank you guys so much for listening to episode 19 of Decoded. I am Jesse, and I'm joined by Shannon. Shannon, say goodbye. You can sign us out, Shannon.
All right, thanks, guys, for joining us. Check in next week in the season. Bye.